Reached out to the members of my YouTube channel with a very important question. What video topic would they actually like to see me cover on my channel? And one person in particular, shout out to my buddy ACDC for this great topic for a video. He wanted to know what my top games were for certain genres. I asked him if he meant across systems or just one specific system. He said, like per system. Well, we're going to keep it to just PlayStation today. I may at some point actually talk about other systems and my top games for that, and we'll be sticking to survival horror and of course RPGs. I hope you like the change in venue. I wanted to up it a little bit, display my games in the back again. Of course you saw PS2 and PS3 in the back before, me sitting in a chair, being lazy and slumping and lumping. So why not stand and be grand and talk about video games like I used to, get back to my roots. Anyway, moving back onto the topic at hand, we're going to start off with PlayStation 1. Now my top two genres of all time whenever it comes to games are, of course, naturally RPGs and survival horror. So I'm only going to be covering those two genres and not anything else because, like I said, it would take a long-ass time to cover every single genre out there. So, y'all know my favorite RPG on PlayStation 1. I've talked about it a lot. I love it. It's my favorite of all time. Nothing encompasses it. Yes, I know Chrono Trigger's on PlayStation 1, but as I said before, I do not count that port as, a legit thing for PlayStation 1 because it originally came out on Super Nintendo, so it would not be fair to count that as my favorite PS1 game too. So, y'all know it. Y'all love it, and I gotta find it in this stack. It goes to Legend of Dragoon, my favorite PS1 game of all time. I've never found an RPG to top this one. I played Thousand Arms, I played Rhapsody Musical Adventure, I played Breath of Fire 4, but this game is always the one I fall back to whenever it comes to RPGs between, the storyline, the OST, the character development, between tragic, happy moments. It's just, getting hype, the additions. Everything about this game is straight up a 9.5 out of 10. No, I don't give it a perfect 10 because it does have flaws. I mean, of course, think about it. The grindiness, that is a thing with a lot of RPGs, but this one is excessively grindy, especially whenever you can finish the game at, about 42 to level, 36, depending on, how much you grind whenever it comes to your characters, and if you want to level up your Dragoons to level 5, if you're a glutton for punishment, because that could take over 100 hours plus. And let's not forget the secret boss fight with Faust if you want to, get all the Stardust, because that is required to do so. Now, getting back to this, like I said, love the game. I talk it up all day long. I have multiple copies of it because you gotta have multiple whenever it comes to your favorite game of all time because you never know. You never know what's gonna happen, especially with discs this old. Now, let's move on to the next genre that I want to talk about whenever it comes to PlayStation 1, and that will be survival horror. Now, whenever it comes to survival horror, I have played a lot of games in that genre. Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Parasite Eve. Yes, Parasite Eve is it's a crossover between survival horror and an RPG. It's lumped together. It can be seen as either or. Especially the second one because it is more survival horror. It's like an RE clone. And then, of course, I played Galarians, one that's not really talked about a lot. There's still a lot I've yet to discover for PS1. But one that still holds the test of time for me, one that I always fall back to, my favorite Resident Evil title of all time, which is actually my favorite survival horror game on PlayStation 1 so far. Like I said, this list is subject to change. I don't think it'll ever change for the RPG, but survival horror, it could possibly do that. And y'all know it. Y'all know I love Nemi, and that is RE3 Stars. This is my most played Resident Evil title of all time. I can remember whenever my best friend, whenever I was younger growing up, she would come over for the weekend over at my house. We would pop this in, and we would literally just like to play this together. We would take turns, going through trying to, beat this. I could beat it on my own, but she liked to play with me because she didn't really play games by herself. So she would either watch me or she would, play at certain intervals of the game. It was just always a fun experience. That's one thing I will never forget. Especially when the spider part comes up in the clock tower. I still hate it. I will literally shut my eyes and shoot at those fuckers. I know exactly where they are. So I'm ready to aim and fire away and take those fuckers out. The spider. Anyway, Jill Valentine, the best character when it comes to the Resident Evil franchise. I love her look, I love her wit, I love her spunkiness, I love her determination. She's definitely the best female protagonist whenever it comes to the Resident Evil series. And then, of course, the big baddie himself, my boy Nemi, is definitely my favorite whenever it comes to the monsters in Resident Evil. Now, talking about games, I wanted to actually throw an extra one your way. Now, whenever I've thought about this, it is still going to rely on the same genres that I talked about previously. It could be survival horror, it could be an RPG. Well, I decided to go with an RPG whenever it comes to PlayStation 1 for this go-round. I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to go into whenever it comes to PS2 yet. You'll see in just a second. So, this is a game that I recently have played. I wanted to pick something that I've recently came across, something I didn't grow up playing, something I'm not really as biased about because it's fresh on the docket. It's something that I've recently discovered, like, holy shit, wow, how did I miss out on this? Well, the only entry I've ever played in this series is Breath of Fire 4. And you know what's coming now, of course, naturally. There's only 2 on the system, so what else could it be? I don't know. Dragon Quarter? Who knows? Demons of Hell 2? I don't know. Yes, it is none other than Breath of Fire 3. Now, I'm still playing this. I'm halfway through it, actually over halfway. I'm hoping to beat it by the end of the month. I will do a full review on this because it is worthy of that. I typically try to do reviews on games I really dislike and games I really love. This game is going to make my top 30. Yes, I shifted it to top 30 because I've been playing so many games over the last few years that there's no room in my top 20 to make room and shift stuff. So top 30 it will be. I may have to do another update video on my top 30 games instead of 20 at this go round because it's about time I do that. Now, this one sticks out to me for numerous reasons. Number one, whenever it comes to the dialogue in this game, no, they don't talk. You have to read the text. The text dialogue is what I mean. It literally throws you for a loop. When you go to Sin City and meet the Lady of the Night, literally, she literally says, I'm selling what's not on the menu. What the fuck, Capcom? I'm not kidding. Look it up. It is true. Some of the shit in this is wild. And even whenever you encounter the actual dolphin, there's little fairies that you encounter. You go into like a little fairy circle. You have the fairy tiara. You get transported there. Basically, what you're doing with the fairies in the game is you're rebuilding like their civilization. You know, you assign them to build their house, you know, to cultivate the land, to get food. You know, it's pretty much kind of playing like Tamagotchi, but with fairies. Now, they can die if you don't watch them. You have to keep a constant watch them. See, like Tamagotchi, but in a game. And I came to find out that 3 of mine had died because I did not check on them enough. But getting back to the dolphin, before you get to do any of this, you encounter a dolphin that's actually terrorizing these fairies. And he literally speaks with an Australian accent in the text dialogue. It is hilarious. I love it. And there is an actual selection that you can make that if you want an English translation from Australian, I'm not kidding, this is a thing, press yes, because he literally... I'm like, what the fuck? They do not make stuff like this anymore. They truly don't. This is a gem of a game, and I have to say, I like this one better than Breath of Fire 4. PS2! Now, starting off with RPGs, yet again, favorite genre, gotta start with it for every system. Now, whenever it comes to PS2, I have flip-flopped over the years about what my favorite RPG is. Hell, even my favorite game of all time whenever it comes to the PS2. Now, in recent years, this is held steadfast. It's not changed at all. So that actual title goes to Dark Cloud 2. Now, the other title that actually flip-flops with this one is Kingdom Hearts 2. I'm a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts, especially 2 because I love the characters, the OST, everything about that game is definitely an upgrade from the first one. But this one has held steadfast for me for the longest time because I have a little bit more sentimental attachment to this one because in high school, this one got me through some tough times, especially a specific year. While Kingdom Hearts did that as well, especially the second one, this one is still the top for one of those reasons. And of course, I played this one a lot as well, which, you know, I did Kingdom Hearts as well, but still, nonetheless, this one still holds a spot, at least for now. Now, getting into this series, I'll never forget when I found the first Dark Cloud game. I I was in a retro store and I was looking around and I saw Dark Cloud. I'm like, Link? Okay, read the back. All right, this looks cool. I bought it for like about $5 to $10. Took it home, played it, loved it. And a few months later, I found that there was a second one because it came to the store. It wasn't there before. Because whenever I went into that retro store, I would always scour the shelves looking to see what I could find to add to my collection, because that's when I started actually buying stuff myself and not trying to wait on my dad or my mom to actually buy stuff for me. So whenever I talk about whenever I started collecting, I try to actually do it whenever I actually started buying my own stuff versus when my parents bought me stuff. So mostly around my teenage years is when I started actually buying my own games for PS2, GameCube, you name it. Now, getting back to Dark Cloud 2. This one is my more preferred over the first one. I like the story more. The characters way more. Max and Monica are great. I love the fact that, the dungeon crawling is still there. The georoam is still there with rebuilding the worlds. It is definitely a unique mechanic I've never seen before in an RPG. And the only thing I don't really like about this game is the speedo, which is basically Max playing golf in the damn dungeon. That is always a pain in the ass to get all those damn medals for him, especially whenever you have to do that. You also have a little robot named Steve that you have to deal with. He can be annoying. Monica's typically my favorite character to deal with whenever it comes to this game. She is a lot easier than Max is. But nonetheless, that's just a little, blip in the dot of the game, and I can handle it. So, now that I've talked about my favorite RPG and my favorite game of all time on PS2, let's move on to Survival Horror. And y'all know what this is going to be. I talked about this recently whenever it comes to my switch from Resident Evil to Silent Hill. For the longest time, many years over, I have been a Resident Evil diehard fan. I still am a fan of Resident Evil, don't get me wrong. Do not confuse with what I'm about to say. But over the years, and I've talked about this many times, whenever Resident Evil 4 came out, I went, I fell off from it. I still played the mainline titles. I still play stuff that I've not played before that's a spin-off, but it just never has held up for me since that happened. And in recent years, I've actually went back and played some of the Silent Hill games I never played before. Like, I rediscovered Shattered Memories because I played it on the Wii initially. I played it on PS2 for the first time. It's still not the greatest, but it's still better than some of the damn Resident Evil titles that I've actually encountered. I actually played Origins for the first time, Silent Hill 4, which made my number 2 Silent Hill game of all time, because even though I fucking have a love-hate relationship with that game, and oh my god, Walter! He's so fucking annoying. Anyway, moving on. There's one game that is above the rest whenever it comes to Silent Hill, and has been my favorite Silent Hill title, and nothing has taken its place. Nothing's even come close. I love Silent Hill 4, don't get me wrong, but it's nothing compared to this one. They just did a remake of this, which, it was kind of lackluster for me. I wasn't disappointed. It's very beautiful. They did a good job with some of the things, but there's some things that I'm very nitpicky about, and I did not like what they did, especially with Pyramid Head and certain scenes with him, and certain locations and certain things that they did with puzzles. But, it's a remake. That's going to happen. It's reimagining. That's what it means. It's not just an upgrade in graphics. And that goes to Silent Hill 2. The best Silent Hill game, and probably the most critically acclaimed. Besides 3, people typically flip-flop between this one and 3. 3 is actually not my favorite. I like Heather. I do. The game's fun, but there's just something about this one that always captivated me more. Pyramid Head is definitely my favorite whenever it comes to the big boys. You know me, I like Nemi, so of course, Pyramid Head is definitely on there whenever it comes to one of my favorite monsters that I encounter in this series. Oh man, the story, the atmosphere is creepy. Everything that I look for in a survival horror title fits the bill for this. And if you've not played this, there's a remake available now for you to actually experience it on new gen consoles if you've never got to experience the original. But I implore you to actually experience the original one before you play the damn remake. That way you can see the differences between the two. People always, this is one thing I want to touch on really briefly. People are like, should I play the remake first or should I play the original? Dude, play the original first before you play anything. Yes, it may be more expensive, but sometimes things are accessible digitally if you want. Yes, I'm not a digital fan, don't get me wrong, but survival horror and RPGs can be expensive these days, especially for retro. So I get it. If you're going to get it digitally, that's totally fine. There's an HD collection. Don't play it that way. Don't do it. It is awful. Don't do the HD collection. No, don't do it. Anyway, play that first whenever it comes to remakes. Always, always, always play the OG. Now, I'm going to throw one more title, but this time it's a survival horror title. This is one I recently experienced last year for the first time, and is a kind of like obscure one not a lot of people know about, and is a very unique one. And I've seen people play this game. People do speedrun this. I did not beat this game because it is very difficult. And it's not like as far as like, it is level difficulty, yes, but there is like something that, you know, kind of impairs you whenever it comes to trying to play, and that is voice activated. Yes, it is a voice activated game that you use a headset for or a microphone in order to tell your character, Rio, that's your main character. She kind of looks like Aya Brea almost. People say I look like her. No, I don't. I look more like Aya, but she is like almost similar to her. Anyway, moving from Parasite Eve. Anyway, moving on. So, the game that I'm referring to is Lifeline. Literally, you're the lifeline. You're the one that's telling Rio what to do. Shoot here. Literally, go here. You have to tell her everything. Go to the bed. Like the bed, okay? She will not hardly understand half of what you fucking say. I literally struggle with her. There is certain monsters that you have to hit in certain places in order to literally down them. And there was a point to where I got finally. There was a monster that I literally had to get it to flop over, hit its stomach, and try to take it out. I could not do it hardly at all. Maybe once or twice, but there was more of them, and I'm like, dude, I'm done. And with my southern twang, you can only imagine how hard it is for her to understand half of what I fucking say. I mean, it's just fucking hilarious. But the reason why I'm pointing this game out, even though it's frustrating, even though it has the voice activating system that it has, which is unique for especially a PlayStation 2 title for survival horror, because I don't think there is anything else out there that actually mimics this for the PS2, is that I had a fun time with it. It was frustrating because, you know, it was hard to get anywhere, but at the same time, it was funny because you tell her to go one way, she do another, she wouldn't listen to you, she do these little things, like there's little secrets that she'll do, she'll like bark like a dog, woof woof. Yeah, she will do that if she actually understands what you're saying. There's little hints there, little things that she'll do, which is hilarious. Definitely recommend checking this out, but it is difficult. I will warn you ahead of time, but I wanted to actually shine the light on something I recently played over the last couple of years, and something that I thought was really fun. You might too. I hope you enjoyed this video about me talking about my top spots for certain genres whenever it comes to PS1 and PS2. Now, if you would like an actual select video on a topic like this, I am doing this for members only on my YouTube channel, so if you want to become a member, feel free to. If not, no worries, but hell, we're welcoming anybody that wants to join the PlayStation Priority team. And of course, this is the PlayStation Girl signing out for now. Game on!